Hello crafty friends, Amanda here, and welcome to Makers with Heart in January, where we are focusing on things to help make your Valentine's preparation easier. So I'm going to show you how step by step to do this notebook purse, and you can put a notebook in it, you can put a card in it, anything that you really want. I have the 3 pockets, one for the cards, the others for like a little mini address book, and then stamps, but you can populate that how you want. I am using the campaign paper Now and Forever. It's available I think through the end of February, and the colors in it are Seabrook, Flamingo, Ballerina, Scarlet, White Daisy. There's other colors in it, but those are the cardstock colors that I picked. And then our Smile Stamp of the Month, Change the World, or not Stamp of the Month, excuse me, Stamp of the Year, Operation Smile Stamp, I think works perfectly with these papers. So the first thing you're going to do is decide what you want as your base for your purse. And I'm going to put stickers on all of these so that you can follow along at home. I will also have the actual dimensions with the scoring information in the description below this video, as well as suggested sizes to cut your decoration pieces. I don't go through the decorating of the purse, but I will have some recommended sizes in the description. So the first base is 12 by 6. The big pocket that holds your note cards is going to be, let me look that up for you here, 8.5 by 5 1/8. And the 1/8 mark is the one between 1/4 and the 5. So I know some people struggle with the 1/8, and it's just that first right between 1/4 and the 5 mark. And then our small pocket, because that's what I cut next, is 4 3/8 by 3.5. Again, that 3/8 mark is going to be between the 1/4 and the 1/2 inch mark on the 4. Our medium pocket is 7 inches by 4 3/8. 3/8 again will be at 4 1/4, the mark above 4 1/4, but before 4 1/2. And then the handles, if you saw how I'm cutting here, I chose the width of them based on the scraps that I had left over, and so one handle gets cut out of the first sheet of paper, and then the second handle gets cut out of the second sheet. And those are 7/8 by 8 1/4. And I just use the first handle as my guide. I think these ended up being 8.5 because that first handle was cut off the big pocket, so that's what made it those dimensions. But you can do what works for you. Next, we're going to score everything. So for our base, from each side, I like to score 4 1/4. And I like to score from each side just because it makes sure that each end is exactly the same. So the sides of your purse are the exact same length. You don't have to worry about any inconsistencies on those score lines. And here I'm deciding when I fold it, I wanted the dark side of the cardstock to be up, so I wanted to make sure when I fold it how I'm doing that. So with the right side facing you, you're going to score on 2 of the short edges and 1 of the long edges for the big pocket at 3/8 and 1 1/4. And then I'm trying to show you, because it's hard to see on screen, that you're going to end up cutting clip the corners of these folds. So you're going to go into the second score line. So you're cutting across the outside score line and then to the inside score line to that inner corner where they meet. And then you just fold these up. And normally I would kind of assembly line style of do all my scores, but I'm trying to show you and repeat so that you know exactly what we're doing on this. And that's how you're going to have your big pocket for your note cards in here. And I will show you how I attach that. I have this real thin red line tape, and it's super strong, and that's what I like to use on this project, but I like to put my tape right next to the fold line so that when it's on the project it's not pulling away from the background. So I'm going to do that on all 3 sides here, right next to the fold, so it's not near the outside edge, it's near the fold side, but not over the folded edge. Hope that makes sense. And then the easiest way I found to remove this red protective coat from the glue adhesive is, as you can see with my piercing tool, it comes off pretty nicely. And then I'm going to fold just the bottom, and what I do is I hold it kind of next to the fold in the purse, but I bring the side up to it, and that way I know that those two folded edges, the base and the pocket, are right next to each other. And eventually I will have this big pocket attached to the base of the purse, but I don't do that until after I get all of my decorations done. It's just easier to work with when the purse can lay flat. So I don't know if you can tell, but the purse, the pink purse, it has a bump in it, so you really couldn't work on that bottom section easily. So here we're going to finish doing the other pockets with their scoring. This medium pocket you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 1 1/8, again on 2 short sides and 1 long side. The same clip is going to happen. I did accidentally score it in the wrong spot, so I'm being really careful here. Once I attach my decorative paper, you're not going to see that extra score line, so I'm just going with it. But you are going to clip out your corners, again going past the outside score line right into the corner where the 2 inside score lines meet. So just clip your corners. And on these I attach them a little bit differently because I go ahead and make them square before I attach them to the purse base. So I'll show you here what I mean. I'm going to put my glue on it just like I did before, with the adhesive right next to the score line or that fold line, not near the outside ledge but near the fold line. But before I attach it to the card, I'm actually going to assemble it into its pocket, just because I found that that makes it a little more sturdy, and that the bottom is going to be adhered to the sides. And it would do it if you don't do it this way. I just had better luck at having my projects be square and not kind of out of square, I guess is the word for that. So here I've used my fingers to make sure that those corners are good. And now I'm going to remove that last tape, and I'm going to adhere this to the base just like I did the first pocket, where you hold it up next to the corner and then fold the base unit up to make sure that it meets that corner. So now I have 2 of the 3 pockets put together, and this pocket you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 1 1/8, but this time you're going to score on 2 long sides and 1 short side. Because it's such a narrow pocket, it needs to be long and skinny. If you have any questions, be sure to ask in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. I do have another video where I made some more of these note card purses, and I will link that just in case you want to cross-reference it. Sometimes information that I put out the first time versus the next time that I make a project are different. But I really thought these note card purses, they come together pretty quickly. It's really up to you how detailed you want to get with the note cards that you put in there. I know sometimes it's fun to just do quick stamped note cards that you stamp them all the same and maybe in different colors, and then it's just a cute little set. You can personalize them with their initials for who you're going to give them to. Like if you're going to give them to your friend Stephanie, put a big S on them so that it's a note from Stephanie. And just like I did with that medium pocket, with this small pocket, I'm going to adhere the sides together to kind of help keep it a little more in square before I attach it to the base. And it's a little tedious to work in there because it's such a small space, but once it's attached to the base, and it's funny, I'm moving this around so much so that I can see how it works, but also so that you can see how I attach it. So I apologize for all of that. And then here I didn't get it quite square, and I got lucky because I didn't push it down too hard. I was able to kind of get that up. And here it comes apart, as you can see, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue in between that. That's an optional step if you want or not. In the past, I've had a red line adhesive down there, and then again, you just pull it out after it's attached to your base, but I forgot to do that this time, so I'm just going to put a liquid glue down the side. And I'm showing you here on the handles because we have the white core cardstock and the handles show a little bit more. I am inking the edges. You can ink the edges of all of these and make them just really lush and kind of that shabby chic or the distressed look. You can make these projects how you want. So now, again, with the two-sided cardstock, I want to keep the dark side out. So I'm using my ruler and I will put one piece of adhesive right at the edge of these and then another piece of adhesive right above the 1/2 inch mark on my ruler. And this is the top of the T-square ruler that Close to My Heart came out with. And it works, it's a nice small ruler to work with on your desk because it's funny, since Christmas and we have friends coming, things have just not been put away like I normally do. So what I did there is I marked 2 inches in from each end, and then the inside of the handle goes above that 2-inch mark. So you'll see here that it leaves just over 1 inch between the outside edge and the start of the handle. And I'll do that on both sides, and I will show you that again. So I've put adhesive on the very edge of the handle, then just above the 1/2 inch mark. And this is just what works for me. Obviously, you can do any type of handle that you want. And then I just line it up with that 2-inch mark, turn them over, and line it up again with the 2-inch mark. I always like the dry fit, kind of that fold helps the paper know where it's going. And it's that easy. This basically, you just have embellishing left to do on this note card purse. So I'm going to show you here what I did. And for my base, I cut a 5-inch strip, or actually these are for my inner pockets. So the first pocket is 3 5/8 by 5 3/4. The next one is 3 by 4 1/2, and then the last one is 3 by 1 1/8. I ended up cutting that last one at 1 1/2. I couldn't read my own writing, so do the 1 1/8 so you don't have to recut it. But you can see how those patterns continue from one to the other pocket, and I did that intentionally because you see them on the inside. So for the outside of the base, I'm doing this beautiful heart paper, and these are 5 inches wide, or 5 inches tall, excuse me, by 5 3/4 inches wide. And that's important if your paper has a pattern to it that has an up and a down. You want to make sure that it's 5 inches tall. And you can cut those down to whatever you want. I end up trimming those later because I decided to frame them with cardstock and really give it some more oomph, but that's kind of up to you. So here I'm starting with the cards, and I'm going to do some fussy cutting out of this paper because I like these roses. So I did that along with cutting an outline in the Seabrook green, and you can kind of see those up there on my cutting board, so they're ready to embellish. But I loved this pattern paper, so I'm going to go ahead and do like a window mosaic effect, and I am going to end up double matting it. So because my base paper, I also want it to have a frame on it. It's like a frame within a frame within a frame. You'll see here that I'll cut these at first at 4 inches, but I do end up going back and trimming off 1/8 of an inch. And I was seeing if there was enough paper left on that scrap to get the size that I needed, and there's not. So I'm going to go back to the scarlet paper and again just trim it out here. So this will end up being the inside image. I'll put all of those little pieces of pattern paper in there and make my window. I do ink the edges of the top, so I didn't make you watch me assemble all of that, but you can see here how we're going to have our frame within a frame within a frame on this card. Attach my heart paper, and again this is 4 by 5 1/4, and then this flamingo cardstock is 3 7/8, so just one little tick below 4, and then the scarlet cardstock is 3 3/4 with my 3 1/2 inch piece that I cut into 4 squares below that. And this is a piece of the zip strip that I just thought was cool. It has the stripes going from dark to light, and I end up picking up this theme in all of my cards that I do with some of my embellishing, which you'll see here. So off camera, I put together these sentiments of "You make me smile," I think is what it is. You make me happy. I didn't want necessarily something that was truly Valentine. I have an idea of who this is going to go to, and I wanted her to be able to send these out to just anybody. So I'm looking to make sure that these foam hearts they're normally used in shakers, but I wanted to see if the colors would work with the Now and Forever paper, and they do, all except for the purple hued one. So again, using that variation line from the zip strip as my inspiration, I'm doing a light heart, a medium heart, and then the red heart. And I'll just put those on here on this strip. And this, again, I'm keeping the cards simple. I'm not doing over the top cards. I'm just keeping them simple, and I know the recipient is going to love them. And I won't show you this for every card, but I like to show what I do for the inside. I found from one of my Valentine stamps from years ago this heart, and so I inked it up in the ballerina ink, and then I rocked and rolled it in the scarlet ink, giving it that two-tone. And here I'm going to start with my next cards, and I'm looking at this paper, and it has more of just a little bit of a peachy hue to it. So not all of the flowers that I cut out work, but this one does. But as I'm looking at it, I'm realizing they're all boxes. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these apart and mat them. So that I can use them in different ways. Again, just kind of using the paper and letting it do the work in my subsequent cards. So I'll cut off the zip strip, and I just wanted to kind of start this, show you that you don't have to cut a whole strip off. If you look carefully, you can kind of get close enough and just trim off your components that you want. And then I just use scissors to finish the cut. And like you can see here, I double mounted these with the Seabrook and then the Flamingo cardstock. And I'm just playing around, like I said, with the pieces that I fussy cut out of, actually I use my smart scissors, out of the pattern paper. And I went ahead and matted some of my sentiments that I had done off screen. But I think for this one, it needed that pink matte to just help keep it in balance. But I liked having the scarlet because it brought out more of the scarlet from the rose in the bottom corner. I'm trying to decide where it goes here. I think if I just take out that $3.75 price tag, this card is coming together. Again, going to use that light pink, medium pink, and then red heart kind of as the embellishment along the edges. The heart that I rejected had a little bit of it was wrinkled and it wasn't going to lay flat. So it was one of those, I was not in the place where I could handle it. There's just a lot going on, and I had many interruptions today, and I am not going to complain about my kids coming and wanting to talk to me. At the same time, I get distracted with where I'm going on my projects, and it's like, oh, I can't handle this. So here I'm trying to figure out if I can do these 3 vignettes on this card front, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe you should get a slimline card. And I think this is the time that our son comes in and says, Mom, I'm bleeding. And I'm like, what? And well, he got one of his teeth out, and my children hold on to teeth very strongly, so he was able to get it out. I'm very proud of him. He has another one that he still needs to get out. But so I was dealing with that, and I kind of lost track of where the bottom of the cardstock was. So I was like, all right, just cut your base and see what fits. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. And like I said, I'm not going to complain about my kids coming and talking to me. And we give gold coins that's what the Tooth Fairy delivers here. So he's looking forward to his next gold coin tonight. And I'm dry fitting this, and it's funny, I put this on here, and then later you'll see when I go to assemble that that's not the final placement. But I'm liking the hearts on this one, adding the sweet little flowers. I thought about using foam tape again to pop this up. I'm telling you these things so that if you want to do those things with your cards, you can. This is just kind of an inspiration. In giving a set, I wouldn't make all these different types of cards. I would choose one type of card and give a set of those. Maybe with slight variations, especially if you use like the background paper like I've done, there would be variations on the theme, but they would be very similar. They wouldn't be multi layout cards with different backgrounds. So it's up to you, obviously, how you want to create your Valentine note card purse. And I decided that Seabrook green was just, the border was just too big for balance on this card. And so I'm just trimming it off here. Surprisingly, it came out pretty straight. I thought for sure I'd be ditching that and having to do it again, but the scissor gods and my eyes were with me. And then I found this big piece, and I forgot that I wanted it on the front of the purse. I was auditioning it for another card, and I was like, no, this is the one that goes on the front of your purse. So again, just to keep the theme together, You Make Me Happy is going to go on the purse. I have done purses in the past with the 3D flowers, and they're very cute. Depending upon how this is going to be used, you need to be careful. I use mine all the time and take it with me, so things that have a height to them on the front of them end up getting knocked off or smashed. But I have another friend that I gave one to, and she actually has hers set up on this little secretariat desk she has, and so it's a cool little art display, as she said, but it also reminds her to send messages to folks. So you saw how I decorated the front, and then I have these last few pieces, so I thought, all right, just give them one more idea or inspiration for a direction you can go with to decorate your projects. And I'm switching these around because the bottom one has like a leaf pointing up, so I don't know if it wasn't designed that way on the paper, but it worked out for me. And then this is just the last of that heart paper scrap that I had left. I am one that I really like to use my scraps, and I get joy out of cutting into fresh paper, but when I'm in a project like this, I like to utilize my scraps and really make them stretch and get more product out of them. So I just cut a 1-inch strip of flamingo, and using it kind of, you've seen this card hundreds of times before, just using it as an anchor for my embellishment with my sentiment off to the side. And like I said, all of these will be stamped with that heart, and the envelopes will coordinate with them, just completing the set and making them all cute. And for ease of assembly, I have gotten into the practice where I put glue on all of my things and then I can just lay them down. But I realized before I was going to put this down that I did not put it down straight. So I'm going to use the lines on the Versamat to straighten that up. And then I will go ahead and put my flower pieces on here, add my sentiment, and we're done. So all in all, it's really how much time you want to spend on the cards and on the embellishing of your purse. The actual purse itself does not take long, and after you do one, you'll be able probably to make the purse bases, I would say, in 10-12 minutes. If you're working right along. If you have distractions or are watching, Netflix while you do it, it might take longer. Be sure to check out what all the other girls have done for Makers with Heart. They started on Tuesday with Julie. Blessings.